We're live. Good evening. This is Attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by two very special guests. I got 2 for 1 here tonight. I got Miss G, Georgette Truan, Miss Cassandra Woodard. You guys seem to be in the same location. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes.
You guys in the same location?
Yes, we are.
Interesting. Now, are you guys at where
My
are you
place.
at?
My place.
Oh, okay. By the way, did you see the private comment I left you last night, Miss G,
Yes.
about internet speed and stuff?
Oh no.
Are you working on Wi-Fi or are you plugged into your internet?
Internet.
Okay. Did you slow your speed or something?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. We already have a comment. Oh, you can support by sending stars. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, I think I know what happened. We'll talk later, okay?
Okay. So, what are we going to discuss tonight, ladies?
We're gonna discuss Washington.
Washington, as in George Washington, or
Washington State.
Washington State.
the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C.?
No, the state of Washington.
Okay, what's going on in the state of Washington?
Well, I heard from some people that Washington is a mother state and they actually go pretty well with the first Family Prevention Act. They follow it pretty well and they're actually doing really good with that. Like, we don't really hear a lot of cases from Washington and they choose mothers over a lot of things. Like, they don't choose the father over custody battles. They usually go with the mother and they try to keep the families prevented, like preservation. This is what I've been hearing from people who live in Washington.
I'm kind of lost.
Well, me, for example, I don't get any calls from Washington. There is no people that require any help, regarding their children in Washington, D.C.
No,
Sorry,
State.
Washington State. So therefore, me and Cassandra were talking about that tonight, and she told me why. She said because it's a mother state.
A mother state? What does that mean?
Well, one of my friends told me, like, it's a mother state. So when people go to court and fight custody battles or they get problems with CPS, they usually take the mother's side over a lot of other people, or the father or CPS, I guess. That's what a friend of mine has told me that lived in Washington. So I guess it's a mother state. That's what they call it.
Have you heard that, Mr. Davis?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I never get calls from Washington State, ever. I get calls from every other state, including California, except Washington.
That's interesting.
And I was telling Cassandra that, that's something we should bring on the show today. Maybe Mr. Davis will be able to give us his feedback on it.
I've never heard of that before. My first reaction is, if they are favoring the mother over the father, that might be some kind of constitutional problem.
That's not what we're saying.
We're saying that
CPS can't just go and steal children from the mother state, meaning they're very strict about that, meaning they can't just mess with people.
They like to preserve the family before even trying to do reunification. They preserve it before then.
I'm just looking up, I Googled mother state. Apparently there's such a thing as called a mother state, and there's some things called father states.
Yes.
So I guess California is a father states. Seems like it, because every abusive father out there have custody of their kids.
And it says something about says something about neutral states. I think California is probably
Hmm.
described as a neutral state, at least on paper, right?
Well,
Yeah.
on paper, but in reality, California is not a neutral state. California favors the abusers always.
That's what it
In
says.
fact, California favors the father, even if the father is the abuser. You know, which really brings me to this topic right now. Yeah, Deidre Payne said we are a CPS state. That is correct, Deidre. I missed you, Deidre, on my shows. I used to do my shows and you're always there. Um, but anyways, the topic I wanted to come to is that I found out that there's this guy on social media that helps fathers gain custody of their kids through CPS. And the sad part about it is saying that he's saying it's father's rights. He's on TikTok. Have you seen? Yeah. He's on TikTok and he's very arrogant, telling fathers what they need to do to gain custody of their child or children through CPS allegations. And when I was watching this guy, I just wanted to vomit. Like literally, he looked like he was dangerous around children, period. And it just blows my mind. And they have a lot of social media groups now that actually teaches fathers how to deceive the system.
Which system are you referring to?
DCFS, any system when it comes to custody of children. So the
But mo-
father, to avoid child support, they're training the fathers how to avoid child support and spousal support obligations by making certain allegations against the mother through the Department of Child Services, because the Department of Child Services favor fathers. If you really look at every case in the Department of Child Services, they favor the fathers, not the mothers. And also in family court. So the rights of mothers is gone. When a mother is concerned about her child, the mother is labeled as brainwashing the children. However, if the mother doesn't report anything that she's concerned about, the mother failed to protect. Either way, the mother's screwed.
They victim blame.
They victim, exactly. And that's, this is happening a lot, but there's a lot of groups out there, fathers' rights, fathers' rights. Look, I grew up with my dad and my mom, and I loved my father. I was his shadow. I was with him everywhere. However, this is, it's becoming to a point now where the system has switched completely. Mothers have no rights anymore. Mothers are paying child support, and fathers are getting away with a lot. Yep. Why are you silent, Mr. Davis?
I was typing you a message.
Oh, God.
Because it's kind of weird, hearing you clearly, but your mouth's not moving because your video feed is freezing up. Anyway, mother states. That's interesting because I just Googled it, and there are such things called mother states and father states.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And there's something called neutral states.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if that's in the law in each state, or if it's just how people in the state perceive the state to be. Do you have any idea about that?
I have no idea. I would think it'd be in the law, or it would be kind of, I would think it'd have to be in the law in order for it to be called that way. But then again, you never know.
Real quick, Justin, I saw your message just now. I do remember speaking with you regarding your daughter Chloe 2 weeks ago. I do recall that. If you need me again, you have my information. You can text me to call you tomorrow. I believe I did send you a text message before. So you can text me to call you tomorrow. Before I forget, I had to say that. Sorry. We taught Mr. Davis something tonight, Cassandra.
I'm just typing. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Hey, I want to tell you something, Miss G. I met with Cassandra Woodard today at my office.
Oh, that's wonderful. I made that happen the other night.
Thanks to Miss G, huh? She is the source of all things good in the world.
When it comes to parents, yes, Miss G will always back them up. Yeah, 100.
So I learned a lot about her case, read the most recent minute orders, the most recent social worker report.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a hearing coming up. Did we say, was it January?
Yes.
Yeah, in January. But we're going to try to do something before then. I gave her some homework assignments to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to start on either of those today?
Yep, got one of them finished already.
Oh, perfect. So, hopefully we're going to be able to help Cassandra in her CPS case in a Southern California county near us.
Yep.
So, did either of you have any questions for me this evening?
I do.
Go ahead.
When grandparents, I'm focused on grandparents lately because of the fact that some of them are very clueless on the importance of having their grandchildren placed with them before the TPR hearing. Oftentimes the grandparents or the grandmother, actually it's mostly the grandmother, calls me, and they always tell me that their daughter's TPR hearing is in February. Like, I've been getting that a lot. Like, so many hearings is coming up in February, and now they're going to do all that. But then they tell me, well, what are the chances of me getting my grandkids to be placed with me? And I always say, you don't have time. You don't have time. You need to act now. And a lot of them think they have time. And I always introduce your book to them. I always tell them to read your book. I tell them what page to read it, and what page they need to focus on, and to make an appointment with you and talk to you. But they seem to think that the social worker, because the social worker evaluated their home and give them an assessment, et cetera, and they pass their lifeline or whatever, that they think that they're going to have the placement with them when the TPR hearing comes. Meaning, a lot of them think the social worker is right by having the children placed with them after the TPR. So what the social workers are telling grandparents now is that you will have the children be with you, even if when your daughter loses her rights. So don't hire an attorney. Don't get anyone to help you. You're going to have placement of your grandkids. I keep trying to tell them that per you, Attorney Davis, once once the parent loses their parental rights, the grandparents loses their rights as well. And
Wait, Miss G.
But that's what you said in your book.
Right. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
As much as you tell people the truth, the more they are going to disbelieve you. And what we're going to see is in the next 6 to 8 months, 9 months, a bunch of grandparents where this happened come back to you and say, you know what? You were right. I lost my grandchild. The social worker deceived me. The social worker played me. You know, one of the things that I want to tell you, and this might be a surprise to you, that social workers and their attorneys think of strategies to defeat you.
I know that.
Now, there are strategies that social workers and their attorneys have
Mm.
to defeat grandparents. There are. It's a checklist. And one of the things that they do is they'll come to you as the grandparent and say, look, I'm going to check you out. I'm going to probably place the kid with you, but just be patient. And you don't need to hire an attorney. Who wants to hire attorneys and get them involved? It's a waste of money. And then time goes on. Yeah, don't worry, Grandma. We got you covered. Don't worry. And then the TPR hearing comes, and bam, Grandma was not going to get a call back from the social worker anymore. Grandma's going to get ghosted. And here's the really sad part of this. This is really the sad part. The judges aren't inclined to do anything for Grandma at this point because you know what? Grandmother never got an attorney and came to court to tell the judge, hey, Judge, I'm here. I want my grandchildren. Grandma trusted the social worker for months, and she got played like a violin. Now, let me ask you something, Miss G. You've worked with me for a couple years. How many times you heard that story?
A lot.
It's a strategy. Here's a strategy that people don't appreciate. Have you ever heard of the term divide and conquer?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I say all the time, Mr.
Yeah.
Davis.
But you first saw that strategy not in the CPS world. You just saw that in life. Well, guess what? Social workers are experts at dividing your family and conquering you.
Yeah.
You know, it goes so far as to say clients of mine have told me that social workers have said to them, Davis doesn't know what he's doing. You shouldn't have him as your lawyer. And I chuckle at that because if there's anything in the world that I know what I'm doing at, it's these cases. I may not know a lot about other stuff, but I know about these cases, and for someone to tell them that I don't know what I'm doing, that's a flat out lie. And the funny thing is, most of these social workers who say that, I've never met them. I've never been on a case with them. So it lets me know that it's a strategy game that they're going to say about any attorney to any grandparent who's going to try and get their child.
Yep.
I've had social workers say that to parents that I represent. Oh, Davis doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-mm.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was in court in Monterey Park on a brand new case. And the first thing the social worker's attorney asked me, are you making the appearance yourself, Mr. Davis? Or is it going to be somebody from your office? And are you going to stay on the case, Mr. Davis? Or are you going to assign it to someone in your office? Now, there is no legitimate reason for a person to ask me that, other than Holy shit, I got to deal with Davis. So, divide and conquer. Tell you everything's going to be all right as your grandchild slips through your fingers. You know, I don't do this. I haven't done this in a couple decades because I don't want to add fuel to the fire. But have you ever taken a call from someone and they said to you, you know what, Georgette, I should have listened to Davis, or I should have just listened to you. I went to court and I got effed.
Yep. I
I
get that
lost
almost
I
every day.
lost my kids, I
Mhm.
lost my grandkids, I lost my nieces and nephews because I chose to listen to the trusting social worker. They're so nice. They treat me so good. How could they possibly ever lie to me? And you, Davis, you're just a lawyer. Everybody hates lawyers.
I used to. I actually used to hate lawyers. I didn't trust any lawyer. Um, and I think I told Cassandra. I
Yeah.
actually, when I first met you, we had a problem, you and I. We always have problems. Even though I work with you, we always had problems. Your mm, way of thinking is completely different than anyone in the world. Let me tell you why. Your strategy is fantastic, but your strategy is not understood by the normal average person. When I first met you, I was a normal average person, emotional, because the system is so corrupt, right? But the more I got to work with you, the more I got to know you, I realized that your strategy is so it loses people. So that's why when you try to coach them, when you try to advise them, they think that the social media advocates know better than you. They actually know better than you. And then they're like, no, 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 I want to do it their way. But
Right.
yet they pay you to represent them, right? Or they pay an associate to represent them, but they still don't listen to either one of you. And they do it the other way.
I want to tell you
It's
something.
weird.
I want
Hmm.
to tell you something. I don't think I've ever told you this before.
Hmm.
When I first started doing juvenile dependency work, CPS cases,
Hmm.
I had a mentor. Did I ever tell you that?
Yes.
His name was Michael David Randall. Um, he was a graduate of Bolt Hall Law School at UC Berkeley, one of the top law schools at the time and still today. And he was as smart as a whip.
Hmm.
And when I first started doing um, these cases, he and I used to have a study group, a private study group, where, and he was, several years ahead of me as a lawyer. But we would talk about cases, about procedure, about evidence, about strategies, about how to direct and cross examine witnesses for hours, Monday through Thursday. We probably did that for 6 or 7 years. And I remember at the time I was married to my first wife, who is a lawyer, who wasn't really part of those strategies. But sometimes I guess she would listen in and stuff. But she was kind of upset because every night we spoke on the phone, and we would have these study sessions. So compared to most attorneys, from a study point of view and a strategy point of view, I've spent tons way more hours than everyone doing this. And a lot of times, attorneys will call me and ask me for, my opinion or strategies, or they'll send me a motion or brief to read. And a lot of times I come across attorneys, 20-year attorneys, that will scoff at what I have to say about a case. because, they never thought of this strategy, right? At 20 years, you're significantly experienced as a lawyer. But, if you always think that there's nothing more you can learn, there's a problem. So I come up with these strategies. I mention them to people. I try to implement them in court. And, you know, hopefully they will work or give up my client the best probability of success. I also have another unique, I guess, experience, and that is I used to do a lot of civil and criminal litigation, coming up as a lawyer. And, back in the old days when I first started doing this as a court appointed attorney, people did a lot of juvenile dependency and criminal law appointments. That's not true today because the systems are set up differently. And it's nothing like doing a criminal case to sharpen your trial skills, your evidentiary skills, your procedural and constitutional argument skills. I remember, one time I told a judge in juvenile dependency court, I was arguing the Constitution, and everyone else at the table was kind of laughing at me. And I looked at the judge and I said to him, I said, I kind of looked around and I said, am I in the wrong place? Because I thought the Constitution applied everywhere. I'll never forget the look on his face. And it was like, he didn't say anything, but it was like, oh, sometimes I forget that. Constitution applies in juvenile court. How many times have you guys haven't been to court, but on your own respective cases, how many times has someone argued the United States Constitution? I bet never.
Not in family law, not in juvenile, not in criminal, nothing.
And if you think about it, that's kind of an odd thing.
So why do we have it?
Well, you have it to use it.
How
Now,
can we use it if we don't?
just because you or your lawyer don't argue doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean it can't be used.
Apparently, it can't be used because they get away with it.
No,
That's
it
why a
can't.
lot of attorneys don't use it.
Okay, I disagree with you.
Okay.
I disagree with you. And believe me, I've thought about this for over 30 years. I've seen, not only have I been involved with cases, but I've seen thousands of cases just by sitting in court. Something kind of interesting happened today. I was in a court hearing this morning, and the other side wasn't ready to do the case, so I had to wait. And while I was waiting, the judge did another trial. And it was clear to me that the guy representing himself was very sharp, very smart, clearly had been wronged by the other side, clearly. Here was the problem. The other side had a lawyer. I didn't know the lawyer. He didn't seem to be Johnny Cochran, but he was a lawyer and he was familiar with some of the evidentiary rules. So they come to an important part of the case where the guy representing himself plays a video. This video is going to lock down the case and make sure that he wins the case. The attorney guy stands up and says, objection, no foundation, and it's hearsay. And as much as the judge didn't want to agree with him, what he said was true.
Mhm.
Now the case broke they took a break in the case, and then during that break they did my case, and so I left, and I don't know the outcome of the case. But here was a guy who was clearly wronged and who I thought should clearly win just from a humanistic point of view. And it looked like his most important piece of evidence was not going to come in. The judge was not going to be able to, rely on that. So, you remember I keep telling you, evidence is how you win and lose cases. You could have the most righteous case in the world, but if you don't present the evidence correctly, you're going to lose. Here was this guy's problem. The video that he was trying to show, which clearly would have caused him to win the case, he didn't take the video. He had an adult son who took the video with the adult son's iPhone. Problem, evidentiary problem one, no foundation. The adult son wasn't there to say, I took that video, Your Honor. That's a true and correct copy of what I saw. That's an evidentiary rule.
Why does he have to do that? It's in the video. I mean, who in the hell cares? Why would they care so much? What I'm saying is that who took the video? It's in the freaking video, the evidence, right?
And that is the reason why you keep losing your cases.
Okay, don't do that. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, why? No,
I just told you.
Say that.
It's the law. It's the law.
Okay, I understand that, but it's a stupid law. But there's
Okay.
often times.
Well, you know what you need to do? You need to go to Sacramento with 1 million votes and change the law that's existed since the beginning of this state.
Okay, anyways, there's a lot of cases in family court where they side with the person that has the money. The person that has the money, the title, the badge, that's who they side with, even with evidence submitted into court. Evidence submitted into court. For some reason, the judges don't really look at it. They don't.
How many cases have you seen other than yours?
About 10. 10 cases. No, 8. Sorry, 8 cases.
Okay. You know how many I've seen?
Yeah, I know. You've seen 100,000 cases. I understand that. I get it, Vincent. But
so if I disagree with you, respectfully disagree with you, what you're saying is not accurate.
Don't be respectfully. That will shock me. I don't want to die. My heart is so fragile.
So what do you want me to say? Quit being stupid?
Yeah, that's the right mistake. That's what why stop now? I mean, I'm so used to it. I can't help it.
Okay, listen. The point I'm making is, you got to know your evidence. Even if you got the winning case from a moral point of view, evidentiary rules. And by the way, when I was looking up Mother State and all that, I came across something. I don't know if this is a lawyer or non-lawyer, but they're giving an evidence workshop for family law and divorce cases. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a good, workshop or something, but I'm going to buy it. And I'm going to take this course and I'm going to report back to you guys. If it's a good course, I'm going to recommend it so that you could at least have the foundations of what you need to know going into court from an evidentiary point of view and the evidence rules. I mean, it's going to turn what you think about the law on its head. Because finally you're going to say, oh, they've been playing by different rules. And when they realize they've been playing by different rules, hopefully, you might do the sharp thing and say, oh, maybe I need to find out what those rules are. Looking at
Sabrina wrote something.
Who?
Sabrina Calinido.
Cloud9's mama only judge has the say so over any government workers, especially DCFS CPS attorneys.
Mhm.
No one has authority over the judge. Judge rules over DCFS CPS. I would agree with that.
Hmm. You know, I disagree with that.
Okay. You
I
you have
disagree.
It's
I,
America. You have the right to disagree.
I know that. I disagree with that because 90% of the time the judges take the recommendation of the social workers, and you know that. Mr. Davis, you know that. We were talking about that on the show last night. 90% of the time, judges take the recommendation of the social workers.
And you know why they do? I'm going to tell you the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to think about this for a moment, or think about it overnight, or think about it over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they do
Mm-hmm.
is because social workers and their attorneys present evidence in the form of reports. You,
But
you, you don't even get on the witness stand.
no,
Did
no.
in your case, Cassandra? Let me ask you this: in your
Mm,
case, have you ever
okay.
submitted a report to the judge at any hearing?
Why? Because your court-appointed attorney wouldn't do it.
Okay. Have you ever written out a statement or a report, Cassandra, in your case?
No.
Why?
Mhm.
Because your court-appointed attorney couldn't do it. Didn't
No, I
want
just
to do it.
listen to the question, Georgette. I asked Cassandra if she ever wrote out a report to submit in her case. I didn't ask her what the court-appointed attorney did or didn't do. I asked Cassandra if she did or didn't do it.
How would Cassandra know if she cannot represent herself proper in a juvenile case?
That's the key, because she doesn't know anything about evidence. She will never know
Correct. Isn't
unless
that the job
unless
of the
unless
court-appointed attorney? I mean, that's
no,
exactly my point, though.
no,
You're missing
no,
the whole point. Okay, all right.
no.
You,
It
you
is
must be right so much.
it is the mother's responsibility. Look, let's get up, wake up in the mirror, and look in the mirror, and let's ask who's responsible
How is
for
the
my
mother
typical.
responsible when the mother addresses that with their court-appointed attorneys and they tell them it's irrelevant, or I'm doing that, and then they don't do it, and then
Cassandra, did your court-appointed attorney ever tell you
like,
not to write a statement?
No.
What?
No.
No? Did your court-appointed attorney ever tell you to write a statement?
No.
No. Your court-appointed attorney never even mentioned it to you, did they?
Nope.
Right. So what I'm telling you right now about writing a statement and giving it to court, you've never heard that before. You know nothing about that, right?
Correct.
So
my point
if
exactly,
you
Vincent.
knew about evidence and how it worked, you'd submit a statement,
How
or
can
you
she
or
submit
you.
a statement if she can't submit it without her attorney?
That's not true. Anybody can
Oh my!
file anything they want with the court. Anything. Now that doesn't mean the court has to consider it, but you could write a statement right now and file it with the court. You can. Is that something you didn't know, Miss G?
That is so wrong. It doesn't. Parents need effectiveness when it comes to juvenile dependency matters.
Mm-hmm.
They need effective representation.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need someone to say, oh, you can submit a form to the court and it might not be acknowledged. We don't want it might not be acknowledged. We want it will be heard. It will be looked at.
You
I
know,
mean,
yesterday you were telling me or telling us that you're leaning Republican these days. Remember that?
I am an independent voter. However, since we are dealing with this bullshit right now with the Democrats, might as well go Republican.
Okay. So let me ask you something.
Hmm.
Do you think that if you had the Rolls Royce of attorneys in a juvenile dependency case, that you'd have a better chance than if you had a Nissan type of attorney?
Yeah, the Nissan is a piece of shit court-appointed attorney.
They're both attorneys, though.
There's difference, though.
I agree.
The engines are different.
I
You
agree.
can't fucking get a Nissan with a Rolls Royce engine,
I
right?
agree.
So
I agree.
yeah, they're different.
I agree 100%. And you're making a point that I agree with you on.
First
Look,
time.
there are differences between lawyers. Just like there are differences between doctors, right? Sometimes you go to a doctor and you say, "Hey, I don't want that guy. He's a quack." I get another attorney.
Especially the gynecologist ones.
So you keep that in mind when you go to CPS court.
You know,
You want as
Attorney Davis,
close to a
Sabrina,
Rolls Royce as possible.
true. Sabrina said, I can see what G's point of view as well. Also, judges knows DCFS loves to do what they want behind judges' back. And then intellect science said, yes, the judge told me I wasn't an attorney. So the judge's job is to do check and balances, correct? They check and
No,
balance.
not correct. Specifically, judges are supposed to decide disputes in the law and in facts.
But that is the same thing as checking and balancing what they see.
No,
Meaning they need to make sure that, listen to me, Vincent, just listen, okay? Just wait. When you go to court, right? When you're in court, the evidence supposedly that the social worker is writing down is complete fabrication. How can the judge go based on hearsay without concrete evidence that the parent did this to the child? There has to
I
be
can
some-
answer that. I can answer that.
Okay, well, answer that.
Okay. The judge in juvenile court cases is allowed to look at and consider hearsay from the social worker. Now, the judge didn't make that rule. That's just the rule from our state.
Why? I wonder why. Because they're
Because
so used
you
to
know
the
why?
tax
Because you
dollars
haven't
money
got
coming in. They're used to the growing budget coming in, or this growing entity. So much money is coming in. Yes, there is no common sense, though. See, I know what you're going to say. I already know. I heard it before. I don't want to hear it again. And the reason for that, because it makes no sense. See, no. That's how I hear you. Blah, 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 blah. And it goes right out.
and that's why you lost both of your
Arguing
cases.
about it. That's why you guys keep arguing about it. It's going in one ear and out the other on both of you.
All I'm saying is the court appointed attorneys, their job is to submit evidence in court. They're supposed to defend their client. But
I agree.
what I see doing is completely different. Admit that you did these allegations, admit that you're wrong to get your children. Parents admit it, then they don't get their children. Whether they admit or don't admit, they still don't get their children. It's bullshit. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that they need to be heard. Parents, we as parents, Sabrina, thank you. We as parents should be heard. A mother doesn't just have pregnancy for 9 months, right? And go into labor pain, not be able to see her child because of allegations. A mother that had a C-section shouldn't be, stripped away from her child because they give her drugs, in to have that C-section operation or whatever that she had to do that day. So, and then they say it's drugs when you gave her the drugs. You gave her the drugs, and the drugs is not even like high, it's like really small. But they make excuses just to steal a child from their mom. And then they expect the mother to be okay. No emotions. And I kid you not, if the mother has emotions, that means the mother is unstable. Mothers will always have emotions when it comes to their children. Always. Animals, you can't just go steal a baby from an animal. You'll be torn apart. You will be no more. Your gut will be out. But what I'm saying is that it's okay for them to steal human beings, children, for money, for profit. If DCFS is not funded, the much amount of money that they're funded, guess what? They're not going to care. Why aren't they removing the children who are really being abused? Because they're damaged goods. They're damaged goods. They're not adoptable. The people the foster parents that wants to adopt, they want to adopt a healthy child because they're adoptable. It's a win-win. They adopt, they get funding. They adopt, they get funding. But the damaged children, they're not adoptable. See, that's what makes this United States so confusing. People want to come to the United States to gain freedom. I tell people, don't come to the United States, stay in your hometown. You would better off being next to the cartels than coming to the United States and having kids in the United States. You're better off dealing with the cartels, living next door to them, than getting yourself involved with your children being stolen. Do you know how many people we got, Attorney Davis? Because you're so busy, you don't know what I go through throughout the day working for you. I got people calling me to translate Spanish to English. The mothers that came from the border recently, their kids were taken from them. Okay? These mothers cannot defend themselves. They don't speak English. They're confused. They have no job. But what did they tell them? Come in, we'll help you. Vote Democrat, why don't you? Okay? That's what they tell them. Vote Democrat. Go ahead, vote. Vote. Come in. But we'll take your kids to help them and feed them and take care of them. And, you're going to get them back. And the mothers have no idea what's going on. The mothers are not used to this, So they come here for protection. But what does the United States do? They steal their life. They steal their life. So there is no freedom of speech. There is no freedom of choice. There is no parental rights. You can't just teach your children the way you want them brought up. It has to be the state telling you how to treat your children, how to raise your children, what to feed your child, what not to feed your child. God forbid if the mother makes a decision to treat and raise her child or children the way it should be. Why? Because nowadays they want children to know about gays and rights and how to children have the right to do sex change at age 8 and 10, 9 and 10 and 11. I mean, but you're teaching them about condoms and sex and gays and lesbian in school. What happened to science and math? What happened to English? What happened to, it just blows my mind. I'm in my 50s and I didn't learn about sex until I was in high school. So I was so naive to the world. And now kids know about sex at age 8 and 7. That's crazy. But they're saying it's okay. The Democrats are saying it's okay. But you're taking parents' rights away while the system is implementing something that is corrupt. Corrupt. It's a circus. Thank you, Sabrina. It's a circus. So basically, this is where we at. While CPS steals our children, put the children in gays and lesbian homes, the parent sees the child, the boy, being dressed as a girl with lipstick on and a dress. Of course, the mother and the father are going to go hysterical. The CPS push their buttons by allowing this shit to happen, right? But then when the mom and dad speaks up, they say, oh, we're going to stop your visitation time because you addressed a concern about your own child. How dare you? We are the DCFS. We are the state. We are untouchable. We
Okay,
get
hold
away
on,
with
hold
murder.
on, hold on. We're already 6 minutes past the show time, and I got to slow your roll. I apologize. Um,
Roll. Good one. Doing good, Miss G.
are either of you going to be on the show with me tomorrow at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. So we can continue the roll tomorrow. We'll get Georgette to continue our schooling.
Are you
Okay.
sure about that? Because
Yeah.
are you sure about that? Because I scare you sometimes, especially when I start doing this and that.
She was getting serious. It was serious.
You're like, who shit? But it's okay, Mr. Davis. I just when I start talking, I can't stop myself. I
Really, I hadn't noticed that. Okay, folks, we got to go. Good night. We'll see everybody tomorrow on the weekend show, or Saturdays and Sundays. It's 9 a.m. All right. Thank you and good night.